just like I assume everybody else, many amongst the fandom, I would assume, honestly, everybody in the fandom, I'm happy to see Muller defeated. I do not like him. I don't think anybody does. He's been built up strongly as a character that you hate, but at the same time, I will give Mishima credit because he's not one of the ones that's just a forgettable one that you hate, where it's just like, oh, it's some random scummy guy who, once he's defeated, will just kind of fade out into, into the nothingness in the back of your mind. Kind of like Garrett, we saw him super into torture, or like Daichi. Those are characters that are, again, very, very forgettable ones. Whereas Muller ties now into not only Hermit's backstory, which was a really dark backstory that we got in, obviously in Hermit's stuff in Digitalis, but also now we know connects to Jin and Sylph. So, seeing him now with all these different points in the story that connect to this guy, it makes you hate him, but at the same time, like I said, he did his job well in what his existence was for. But he's one of the ones I'm not going to forget him as the story progresses. And it's like the only reason I'm not going to forget Daichi is I liked his Ether Gear design. Like Garrett, if it wasn't for the fact Garrett has such a plain name, and probably he had a cool, Homura had a cool panel in killing him, or at least stabbing him through the chest. I assume he's dead. But other than that, forgettable guy. So, the only thing that I will say about this fight, I'll get to in a minute, but obviously I want to talk about the stuff at the beginning of the fight. I'm very curious what they're going to do with this little girl. I think her name was Mimi with Mimii. I feel like the name should be something a little different. Maybe that's short, because I know, for instance, Mishima has another Mimi right now in 100 Years Quest, but I don't know, it'll feel really weird, moreover, to have two Mimis running along the same time, because I don't know what fate can really, turn, for this girl outside of joining the Eden Zero crew. I don't expect her to become a fighter or anything crazy, but if she ends up joining into the main cast, or maybe she ends up going with Elsie, similar to how Elsie was came along with the Eden Zero as a little girl, and now we have this girl who went through a different kind of massacre, but still really bad, and I don't imagine she's going to have a lot to go back to. So, we'll see what Mishima's plans are there. I'm very curious just with this character, because it's something I definitely wouldn't have expected at all coming out of this arc, because if she goes into the Eden Zero, or if she goes over to Skull Fairy, there has to be something to her character that she'll have relevancy later. Maybe at some point there'll be a future arc instead of just going into the past, and we'll see her grown up, or maybe she'll run into some situation that ages her and makes her more relevant, or something that ties into the story, because you have to bring in the fact that it's a time travel heavy series. It's not again, Brave Master and Fairy Tail had time travel in it, but time travel wasn't nearly as front and center as it is in Eden Zero. Now, top of that, fact she's a little girl, and I just feel to have a little kid around is going to be really risky unless she just stays on the ship, but I'm fine with that. I really like the idea, though, of there being characters that are just always on the ship, that even if they don't do anything in the arcs, it's maybe they have their own kind of small purpose. Maybe a little kid could maybe work into something later on, but if we had somebody who just was on the ship to do one task, maybe there's somebody who just keeps one area set up, or I don't really know what the plan would be for this one, because it's kind of weird, because I would say somebody like a chef or something, but we know the Eden Zero has food systems already set up. So again, the little girl is a very weird addition into what's going on right now, and I don't really know what the plan is there. I kind of like the idea, though, of her being in the crew, but it would be, again, very odd for her to be in the Eden Zero ship if she's not doing anything, unless just want to keep her in the background a little bit. Maybe she could become a friend with Pino, or she ends up going somewhere to the Skull Fairy, which is actually something that I would prefer, because I think it'd be cool to have her join Elsie's crew, and then we see her every once in a while whenever Elsie pops up to be oh, cool, it's that girl. I don't know. Either way, they're racing around, just trying to deal with these drones as the planet is self-destructing. Shiki's still got the Xenolith robotic proxy, body. Still, that's another weird one, but Again, the difference is I can make it like an idea of what's going to happen with this version of with Xenolith, because the fact it kind of slumped down and it just seemed like his consciousness faded out of it. I'm guessing wherever wherever the core of him is, either if it's like a brain in a jar or if he has like a different main robotic body, maybe looking more like the armor that he wore when he was alive, that at some point he could just show back up, like his brain will like reappear into this machine and I'll be like, oh wow, you know, you guys actually got off the planet, didn't self-destruct, or at least save my body. And then maybe give Shiki some words of advice in Magimech or something. That's still like a plot setup that I can see how maybe it'll turn out. Again, the little girl is such a weird addition to like stuff going on, because we know this is also the start of stuff in the Aoi cosmos, because we haven't even seen Poseidon Arrow yet. We haven't even got to like the oceans. We know that there's still a big gap that Shiki's got to cover before he gets up to the area of like the Erasion Seis Galactica. And there's obviously the 12 Heavenly Knights of the Dancing Sakura, and then Ziggy, who I would assume like Ziggy in his prime, or at least Ziggy where his prime will be in the future, is going to be, you know, above those. So there's still a good ceiling that Shiki needs to overtake before he gets there. Like I said, this is the beginning of the arc. The fact that we started out with one Shiki just by having like he managed to win his fight with Orc. And I was gonna say by the skin of his teeth, but it's like the second he went overdrive, he crushed him. But I mean, he still had to go into his strongest form and use from what we know as the strongest technique that he's got under his belt to defeat him. And then he got completely demolished by Justice. And granted, we don't know what a fully fresh Shiki would do against Justice, but I mean, I feel like it's very obvious that he would put up a better fight, but there's still no way he would beat Justice, because Justice wasn't even in a state of his ether gear where like the ether lines start to really advance or like start to come off the body in a you know, in that kind of right before overdrive state. And then obviously we haven't seen his overdrive, so there's still a lot to him. And he's not like one of those characters that you know, someone like you know, another obvious in the crew like Jin or Wise. Like Jin doesn't have that, you know, the ether lines coming off his body style like how they, you know, we know that Jin has. Weiss is still at a fairly normal level with it. Jin has that spot right before overdrive, but Justice, the fact that he's one of the Erasion Seis Galactica, we know for a fact he should have overdrive. We don't know if like he has like some crazy full form like what Draken Joe had. Maybe Draken Joe's thing was like that made him like extra special, was that his overdrive is like more advanced or something, and who knows like exact amounts, you know. But at the same time, it's kind of like how you have Bleach, where regardless of what where the captains ranked, you knew that they should have Bankai. Like the only one like exception was Kenpachi, but like don't need to go into Bleach specifics, but you know what I mean, a technique and level that they should have just by being in that you know, general grouping. Any of the Erasion Seis, whether Galactica, Interstellar, I assume has overdrive. It would be again very strange if they didn't at least have the whatever the starting point of overdrive is. We don't know if there's tiers to it. Again, I feel like Shiki's overdrive isn't complete. Like maybe it's just in the first stage or something. That's still something that we just don't have enough information on, but we'll get to it. And then we get back to what's going on with Hermit. Hermit's going into the system that you know, the satellite to you know, to fix the virus that's been going out. And she says that it's, you know, Dr. Muller, like even though he's a horrible person, he is really smart, and he did like make this extremely complicated, and she might even overheat while doing it. Luckily, Laguna's there, and he's able to help cool her down. And she even mentions that the reason that that Wise is there, again, isn't to do the job of fixing the machine, but in case that she did end up, you know, getting infected and turning on them, that he would be there to destroy her. And I really liked the moment when he's like, you know, it's like, why'd you even bring me here? And then, you know, she explained that, and it's like, what does that say about me? And she says that that she trusts him. I thought that was a really nice moment. I already know people are already shipping Wise and Hermit. Like the second they're back, like their two characters started to go down this pathway of going against Muller, and obviously it having ties to Hermit's backstory and her trauma, and Wise doing his thing against him. Like it was very obvious that that's what Mishima is doing with this set. And on top of that, like some of the moments, like then when she was saying he was really cool, and then like this right here is her saying that she trusts him, and even Wise looks a little bit flustered by it. He didn't get like a really like his response. I actually thought was really nice because he's not like trying to like bite back or doing anything kind of like odd. The show like that maybe he is again like a little bit flustered. Like I said, he just seems kind of embarrassed again, like just basic flustered, and I thought that was really nice. So I think there's just a good ship so far. I like Hermit, I like Wise. I think that they have good chemistry, and I like where their stories. I would say their ship starts at. I think this is a really good beginning for it, having to do with taking down Molar. But then like we see Molar, he's got like these little robot arms coming out of his head, and this is the thing I wanted to talk about because I really liked that Hermit kind of tricked him so she could get the retina scan off of him, the last thing that she needed in order to override his system. And we see Ivory is still inside of Sylph's memories, and she says that she's going to erase the memory from her mind. And again, that's like super traumatic. It's probably, I mean, I can't even say like it's probably bad. Like we know what it did to her. She watched this dude chop off her brother's limbs, both of them still fully. Like it's not like he was drugged up and asleep or anything too. He was fully conscious, and not only that, like, he wasn't just going, like, I'm just gonna go for it. He was, like, slowly going into the wood and, like, fucking with him. So, when he, it's an extra level of, like, mental torture on top of everything else. So, she's been through some shit. And I like what was going on with them. I thought that was a really nice scene with Sylph and Jin, as well as with Laguna in this, because I liked Laguna's moment where he's, like, disgusted with Dr. Molar, as well as seeing that he connects to the backstories of these people. And I really like, one of the things that was big for me going into this arc and like some of these chapters with having Jin and Laguna on board was, how are they going to fit into the crew? Not from the point of how are they going to just be on the ship, but how are they going to fit into the story of being on the crew. I thought Mishima did a really good job at connecting all these together, because now, obviously, Jin is going to be very grateful to all of them. He's going to be grateful to Ivory for saving his sister and helping her. He's going to be grateful to Hermit and Laguna and Wise when they get back. If they, assuming they find out about Molar, like, they don't have to tell Sylph, but they could tell Jin. I feel like it'd be very good for Jin to know that he's, that he was defeated. But again, the thing that makes me worry, and though I do like this panel a lot with Hermit just tossing him up like a volleyball and punching him, I was very happy about that, but he's not dead. And I don't generally think that they have to finish off characters every time. Like, you can defeat a villain and have him locked up, kind of like when we saw with Drac and Joe and stuff. But Molar, if he gets away, he's gonna do this again. He's gonna do some of these things again. Like, Drac and Joe, we know that Shiki, like, when he was talking to him, would say that he would make him his friend because he doesn't have any. And I feel like Drac and Joe is not like the Drac and Joe, like, that we saw. There'll probably be some form of time shenanigans, and maybe we meet, like, a younger Drac and Joe, because there's still chunks in his backstory we don't know about. So I feel like we'll run into something like that, again, like a younger Drac and Joe. Shiki befriends him, and it's like him before he ends up going corrupt, because we saw like early in his backstory when he was a little kid, and he seemed like just like a happy young boy, and then at some point he became, the dude that we know. So if she can get in there and save him beforehand, like, make him a friend and keep him from going down that pathway, that would be really nice. But with Molar, it's clear that Molar is vile to like the very core of his being, and I feel like he needs to be taken out. Because like I said, if he gets away, and it's not like he doesn't possess the capabilities of getting away. Because even when Hermit punched him, he still had his little robot arms coming out of his ears. So he has the capability of trying to get away. And I'm sure he has some form of escape pod or some way off of the satellite set up. Because the dude is obviously really smart. So I feel like he would have that, in his capabilities to prepare himself for a hasty getaway. And if they're not paying attention to him, is when he's begging for their pretty much begging them for mercy, that's different. They're in the room, he's right there. They would probably notice him if he tried to get away. But now, after he gets punched, not only that, like, Hermit punches him away. So who knows how far he gets? And then again, if he gets punched like maybe too close to a wall, he could get to some door or some like a garbage chute or something, and then escape the satellite. And that's the thing I really worry about, because not only, like I said, do I hate the guy, but if he gets away, he's starting this up again, and he's only going to cause more problems. Because next time, I can guarantee he's not going to have the normal robot suit that he had, like the robotic just body had the O parts kind of just again, normal build. Like I was trying to figure out how to describe it, but it's just like he had a very still humanoid appearance. I feel like if he gets away, he's just gonna build some form of like monstrous mech suit with probably like tons of guns and tentacle like robotic limbs and all these crazy things. Like, I'm just imagining one of those things from War of the Worlds with his face on it or something like that. Like, he's not gonna be like, oh, well, I'll just kind of do it over again. The same way. He's like, I need to make sure that this isn't going to happen again. Because, again, he is a genius. He will invent more things. He will figure out a way to power himself up to continuously go. And on top of all that, the fact that he is a genius bad guy means that any other villain could find him and he could be useful to them in some way. Like, again, it's like Ziggy clearly had plans for him, and some other bad guy found this dude to be like, oh, well, this using this dude's intelligence could benefit me somehow. Let's do it. Cause a crazy machine warfare and stuff. And again, we remember the memory, like the dream that Rebecca had, like right before the Sun Jewel stuff, when it was like, these big robots going around shooting at stuff, like these like little walker things with cannons on them. Maybe he's involved in that. Who knows? Like, it's a really risky thing if they don't kill him. And that's one of the reasons I really wish Jin was there, because out of everyone there, Jin would not hesitate to crush this dude's head. He would either step on him or, slice his head in half with a wind blade, or just throw him out the vacuum of space. There's a lot of ways to get around, or there are a lot of ways to really dispose of this guy. But at the same time, like I said, if they don't do it, I feel like he's going to escape. Maybe we'll get lucky and he'll somehow be met with justice and justice will arrest him. But again, it's got my paranoia on like written all over it, because I do not want this guy to escape. I like him showing up and being a more dangerous, more vile villain is always something that to a degree I can appreciate, just because it'd be interesting in his villain line to see him get another chance at being a evil, grotesque bad guy. But at the same time, I want him just to get killed. He's one of those bad guys where it's like he could work again in another arc, and obviously having all this stuff behind him, you wouldn't have to go into more backstory on this guy. You would already have content in the series that you can tie to him. But I want to see this guy dead. I mean, that's as simple as that. I'm sure everybody in the comments, everyone listening, and essentially probably anyone who's never even looked at and listened to one of my 8 and 0 reviews probably has crossed their mind so many times of this guy needing to be shot into the sun, getting rid of this dude, like right stat now. But anyway, other than that though, comment below, thumbs up the video, befriend the like button, subscribe button, and check out my other videos. Further than that, I appreciate everyone who's already subscribed, and thank you all for listening. Bye.